Hey everyone, welcome back to Toasty TCG. So, in the previous video of how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, we discussed the three basic cards in the game, spells, traps, and monsters, and then we also discussed the basic rules and the layout of a Yu-Gi-Oh field. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing the 6 phases of a turn, as well as how to battle with your monsters, calculate damage, and just understand when your monster gets destroyed by battle, when it doesn't. So to start off, I just want to briefly describe how each phase works, but I'll be going more in depth later in the video. So there are 6 phases in each turn, and both players have to agree when a phase ends to move on to the next phase. So to start off, you have your draw phase. Every turn except the very first turn of the game, the turn player will draw one card from the top of their deck in the phase, and then both players must agree to end that phase, unless they have any cards or effects they would like to activate during that phase. Next up, we move into the standby phase. The standby phase is simply a phase where card effects happen. Some card effects just mention standby phase. If there is no card effects that are happening in the standby phase, then both players can agree to move to the main phase. Now, in the main phase, this is where you activate most of your spells, you can set your trap cards, and you can perform your normal summons and a majority of your special summons. Then, when both players agree to end the main phase, you have a couple options. So, let's say you decide to just completely end your turn after summoning, you just move directly to the end phase. The end phase is just where you're pretty much saying you're going to end your turn. Both players agree to the end phase and to ending the turn and move on to the next turn. However, if it is the second turn of the duel, or any point after, then you have the option of going into your battle phase. Now, this is where you declare your monster attacks on your opponent's monsters. You calculate how much damage you or your opponent might take from an attack, and then you move monsters to the graveyard if that's something that's necessary. And then, when both players agree to end the battle phase, you can move to main phase 2, where you have the option of normal summoning if you haven't normal summoned already, activating your spells, setting your traps. It's pretty much main phase 1, but you don't have the battle phase to go into afterwards. And then after main phase 2, you move into the end phase, where, as I mentioned before, you're just saying you're going to end your turn, both players agree to the end phase, and you go back and forth to your opponent's turn, they go back to yours after their 6 phases. But let's go into further detail. So today I'm going to be utilizing an online simulator to just show you guys how the phases and how battling works. So let's get right into that. Alright, so here you can see the layout of the field. It's exactly how I described it in the previous video. You have your hand, your monster zones here, your spell and trap zones here, your extra deck here. There's no extra deck for these test decks. There's the field spell zone here, which we won't be using, the deck and the graveyard, as well as a little zone for monsters that are removed from the game, which is the term that we're going to be discussing later on down the line. So to start off a duel, both players start in the turn player's draw phase. Make sure you just decide who's going to go first with like a die roll, rock, paper, scissors, whatever works for the players. So when the duel starts, as I mentioned, you start in the draw phase. Now at the very first turn of the duel, whoever's draw phase it is actually doesn't draw a card for that draw phase. Now to end the phase, both players have to agree to it. So for example, the red player says that they're going to end the draw phase, so the blue player agrees to that. Then you're going to want to move to the standby phase. Now, once in the standby phase, if there's no cards or effects activating here, then both players can just move to main phase 1. So as long as there's nothing going on here, the red player says that they're moving to main phase 1, the blue player agrees, you move to main phase 1. Now this is where you can set your trap cards, you can also set spell cards, you can activate your spell cards, you can do your normal summons, your special summons, a lot of things happen in the main phase. So to start off, we're going to have a normal summon. So we're going to do normal summon Red Gadget. To refresh what we discussed in the last video, we're going to talk about how to translate all the information on a card. So to put it very briefly, in the top left you have the monster, spell, or trap card's name, and then if it's a monster, you have the attribute. So as you see, Red Gadget is an Earth attribute monster. Then under the attribute, you have the level. So Red Gadget has 4 stars. That means it is a level 4. Then here's the artwork. Then underneath the artwork, you have which type of monster Red Gadget is. So here it says Machine Effect Monster. So from all this information, we can gather that Red Gadget is an Earth level 4 machine monster. Then directly under where it says Machine Effect, you have the monster's actual effect. And then underneath the effect, you have the attack and the defense, which we'll be discussing very shortly. But first, let's discuss Red Gadget's effect. Red Gadget simply says, when this card is normal or special summoned, you can add 1 Yellow Gadget from your deck to your hand. So, if a card is in quotations here, like how it says Yellow Gadget, that's referring to the name of the card. So when you summon Red Gadget and you go to search a Yellow Gadget, you simply add a monster from your deck to your hand whose name is Yellow Gadget. So let's do that next. So you go to the deck, take out the Yellow Gadget, put it in your hand, and then you shuffle your deck. Now you're still in the main phase after this effect finishes up. You still have the options of setting spells or using spells, setting traps. And keep in mind, if you set a trap card, you can't use it the turn that you set it. So the turn player sets their trap card in their spell and trap zones. Keep in mind, whenever you use a spell or trap card, you don't have to set it or activate it in a specific zone. As long as it's set or activated in one of these 5 zones, you can put it in any of these 5 zones. Just keep in mind that when you set or use a spell or trap card, that it has to stay in that zone for as long as it is on the field. So make sure you don't move your cards around, because zone placement is very important in this game. Now, say that the turn player is ready to end their turn, because the very first turn of the game you can't go into the battle phase, so you can't go into main phase 2 either. So the blue player agrees to end main phase 1, and you go to the end phase. Now both players agree to the end phase being over, so you move on to the next turn. Now we're on the blue player's turn. So you're in the draw phase, so at the very beginning of the draw phase, whoever's turn it is will draw 1 card from their deck. So the blue player draws 1 card. Now, it is the blue player's turn to say that they're ending the phase, and the red player's turn to agree, so you go to your standby phase. And then if the blue player wants to end the standby phase, so there's no cards or effects activating, and the red player agrees, you would go to the main phase. Now, let's say, for example, that in the standby phase, you can activate a trap card at any point in the game, as long as it is past the turn that it's set, and its condition is being met. So let's say, for example, in standby phase, because the blue player has cards in their hand, the red player would have the option of activating Mind Crush in the standby phase and declaring card name, but we're not going to do that here. It's just an example that in the standby phase you have options like that, but the red player is not going to do that, so we're going to just simply agree to end the phase and move to main phase 1. Alright, so here the blue player is going to be able to use their spells or traps and normal summon their monsters. So the turn player is going to normal summon their Mech Knight Avram. And then keep in mind that the same thing that we discussed about spells and traps being able to be activated or set in any of their 5 zones applies for monsters as well. So say for example that you don't want to normal summon your Avram to the middle zone, you can actually just normal summon it to any of your 5 zones. So let's say you want to normal summon it to this zone on the far left, or for the blue player's perspective, the far right. So they summon it to that zone instead, you can do that as well. But just once again, keep in mind that once you decide on a zone to put your card in and put it in that zone, just don't move your cards around because of zone placement being very important in this game. Now, once both players agree to end the main phase, you move to the battle phase, or as I mentioned previously, you can actually go from main phase directly to end phase. But the blue player is going to enter their battle phase, and this is where your attacks are going to happen. So the blue player, because they have a Mech Knight Avram in upright position, which means attack position, they can declare an attack with their Mech Knight Avram. So the Mech Knight Avram only has one option to attack. It can only attack from the red gadget, If there were other monsters on the field, the Avram would be able to choose between the monsters on the field to attack. So let's say, for example, there's the red gadget and yellow gadget on the field. The Avram would be able to attack either one. Let's also say that you have the red gadget on the field in attack position, and you're able to set the yellow gadget in face-down defense position. Avram would still be able to attack either one. But for this example, as I mentioned already, Avram is in the upright position, so it can attack. However, if it was sideways in defense position, it would not be able to attack. Now, once again, the only option to attack is the red gadget. And keep in mind, you don't have to attack if you don't want to. You can simply enter the battle phase, and then decide that you don't want to attack, and then move on to the main phase too. But because we have a stronger monster, we're going to do attacks. And what I mean by stronger monster here is in the bottom right, you have the attack and defense. So Avram has the acronym ATK, and then after the / 2000. Then after the 2000, it has DEF, and following / is a 0. So what we can understand from this is Avram has 2000 attack and 0 defense. So while it is in this upright position, in attack position, we're going to be referring to this number. Now, if it was sideways, we'd be referring to this number when doing battles. So, because Avram is in this upright position, and it is the turn player's battle phase who controls Avram, they can declare their attack with the Avram. So, what's going to happen here is the Avram declares an attack on the red gadget, and then on attack declaration, you can do a different number of things. Both players have options here of doing little different interactions depending on what cards are on the field. So, for example, the red player has the Mind Crush set. So, on the declaration of the attack, the red player could hypothetically activate the Mind Crush, declare a name, and see if they can discard anything. But again, we're not going to do that. So after the declaration goes through and both players agree to move further, you go into damage calculation. This is simply where you calculate the attack difference and decide how much damage the one player will take, or if there is going to be damage taken. So for this example, there is a 2000 attack monster attacking a 1300 attack monster. So again, we're going to be using red gadget's attack here because it is in this upright position. If it was sideways in defense position, we'd be using the 1500, but because it is in upright position, we're going to be referring to its attack for this. So when an attack position monster attacks another attack position monster, and it destroys that monster by battle, the difference in the attack is inflicted on the controller of the destroyed monster. So Avram is attacking with 2000 attack into red gadget with 1300 attack. So because it has a larger attack stat, the red gadget will be destroyed and go to the grave. Now, the controller of red gadget is going to take the difference. So Avram is 700 attack more than red gadget. So the red player takes 700 damage to their life points, which you can see change in the bottom right there. So they went from 8,000 life points to 7,300 life points. Now, because there is no more monsters on the field that can attack, the blue player is going to attempt to end their battle phase, and the red player agrees. So they move to main phase 2. Now, in main phase 2, you can, once again, if you haven't normal summoned already, you can normal summon. You can set your traps, and you can activate your spells. So the blue player will activate Reinforcements of the Army. This one just says, add 1 level 4 or lower warrior monster from your deck to your hand. So they're going to go into the deck and add Hayabusa Knight. So Hayabusa Knight, you have the name here, Earth attribute. This one has 3 stars, so it is a level 3, which is level 4 or lower for Reinforcements of the Army. That just means a level 4, level 3, level 2, or level 1 monster. And again, Hayabusa Knight is level 3. And then you can see it as a warrior monster right down there. So it classifies as a card that Reinforcements of the Army can search. So once the deck is exited and you shuffle your deck, And now that Reinforcements of the Army's effect has finished, it's going to leave the field and go to the grave. Now here, the blue player is going to attempt to end their main phase 2, the red player agrees, and you go to end phase. The blue player is going to attempt to end their end phase, but the red player, this is where we're going to activate a trap card. Keep in mind, after the turn of the set, you can use your trap cards at any point, as long as their condition is allowing them to activate. So, for example, Mind Crush just needs to declare a card, and if that card is in your opponent's hand, they must discard all copies. So, in this situation, the opponent has a hand, they have cards in their hand, so you can activate Mind Crush. So, say for example that they didn't have any cards in their hand, there were 0 cards in their hand, you actually wouldn't be able to activate Mind Crush because its condition would not be met. So here the red player flips their Mind Crush, they declare Hayabusa Knight, that was the card just added off Reinforcements of the Army, and then the blue player must discard all copies. So they have 2 copies of Hayabusa Knight, so both copies get discarded. Then, once again, the blue player is going to attempt to end their turn, and this time the red player is going to agree, but keep in mind the effect of Mind Crush has finished resolving, so it goes to the grave first, and now the turn ends. So now we're in the draw phase of the red player's turn, so they get to draw a card to start their turn with. Next, both players will agree to end the draw phase, going to standby. Then both players will agree to end the standby, going into the main phase 1. Alright, so now we're in main phase 1 of the red player's turn again. This, of course, is where they can normal summon monsters, set trap cards, and use spell cards. Let's say the red player doesn't want to risk taking damage. They could choose to set a monster as their normal summon. As we discussed in the first video, if you set a monster, it goes face down, so neither player can see the front of the card, and then it also goes sideways because it's in defense position. Now, keep in mind, while there is a face-up defense position and face-up attack position, there is only face-down defense position. There is no face-down attack position. So, here you see the monster getting set. Now, let's say that the red player doesn't want to go to battle phase if they have no monsters to attack with. They simply say that they're going to end the main phase 1. If the blue player agrees to end the main phase, you have the option of going straight to the end phase. Even though the red player has the option of going to battle phase and then going to main phase 2, they're not obligated to. They just go right to end phase if they want to. So now they go right to end phase, and then both players agree to end the turn. The turn is now ended. Alright, so now we're going to go back to the blue player's turn. So we are now in the draw phase of the blue player, so they're going to draw for their turn. Now, if both players agree to end the draw phase, you go to standby phase. Both players agree to end the standby phase. We're now in the blue player's main phase 1 again. So once again, they have the option of doing their normal summons, they're setting spells and traps, or activating spell cards. So in this instance, the blue player will choose to normal summon the green gadget. And now the green gadget works similar to the red gadget that we had earlier. So once again, you have the card's name right here, green gadget. For attribute, it is a level 4 because there are 4 stars, and it is a machine effect monster. It has 1400 attack, 600 defense. Now, once the green gadget is normal summoned, or special summoned, you can add 1 red gadget from your deck to your hand. So you're simply going into the deck, searching a monster whose name is Red Gadget, and adding it to your hand. Now they add the Red Gadget, shuffle their deck, and now the blue player can simply say that they're ending the main phase. If the red player agrees, they can go to their battle phase, or of course they can just end their turn. So the blue player agrees to go into their battle phase. And now, once in the battle phase, and you have multiple monsters on your field, you can attack with them in any order that you want to. So if you want to attack with the Mekk-Knight Ogrom first, you can attack with Mekk-Knight Ogrom first. But if you want it to attack with it second, you can attack with your green gadget first. And then keep in mind, you're not obligated to attack, so if you don't want to attack at all, you can just say you're ending your battle phase and go to main phase 2. But keep in mind, there is only 1 card or 1 monster on the red player's field, so that monster has to be attacked before anything else can be attacked, like attacking directly, which is something that we're going to discuss later on. But if there were other monsters on the field, you to be able to attack them in any order you want to, and you of course can declare your attacks with your monsters in any order you want to. So let's say, for example, that the monster that was destroyed on the last turn, Red Gadget, is still in the field. You can say, for example, declare your attack with Avram and attack the Red Gadget, and then declare an attack with Green Gadget on the face down. Or you can do that in vice versa. You have the option of attacking with Green Gadget into the face down first, or attack, and then afterwards having Avram attack the Red Gadget. And then ultimately, you can also have Green Gadget attack the Red Gadget, Avram attack the face down. You can declare your attacks in any order you want, on any monsters you want in any order. So, let's say in this example, the blue player decides they want to attack with their Green Gadget first, so they declare their attack on the face down. So once the attack is declared, both players agree on the declaration of the attack, and now you start to calculate your damage. So once you're in this part of the attack, the face down monster, if the monster is face down, gets flipped face up. And when the card gets flipped face up, it has to stay in defense position. So we're going to flip Giant Soldier of Stone over. Once again, you have your name, your attribute, you have a level 3, it's a rock normal monster. This has a little flavor text that doesn't affect the game at all. Now, this time, we have a monster in defense position, so we're going to be going by its defense. So, Green Gadget is attacking with its 1400 attack into Giant Soldier of Stone's 2000 defense. So what's going to happen here is, because Giant Soldier of Stone has more defense than Green Gadget has attack, the blue player is going to take the difference. So 2000 minus 1400 is 600. So that just means the blue player will take 600 damage. Now, what's a little different here from two attack monsters battling each other is if an attack position monster battles a defense position monster, and the defense position monster has larger attack than the attacking monster, the attacking monster doesn't get destroyed actually. You simply take the damage, and you actually get to keep your monster on the field. So in this scenario, where Green Gadget swung 1400 attack at Giant Soldier Stone's 2000 defense, the blue player took 600 damage, but their Green Gadget is not destroyed. Now let's try a different scenario, where the 2000 attack Avram battles the 2000 defense Giant Soldier of Stone. So, in cases like this, where the attack of an attack monster clashes with the defense of a defense monster, if they're even, nothing happens at all. There's no damage, no monsters get destroyed. So as long as an attack monster battles a defense monster, if the defense position monster with 2000 defense matches the attack position monster with 2000 attack, nothing's going to happen. Now once again, the blue player is going to decide that they want to end the battle phase. If the red player agrees, you move to main phase 2. Now, once again, with your main phase, you have the option of doing a normal summon. If you haven't normal summoned this turn, you can set traps, or you have the option of activating your spells. The blue player is simply going to set their copy of Mind Crush, and then say they want to end main phase 2. If the red player agrees, you're now in the end phase. Now, if both players agree to end the end phase, the turn will end. Alright, so now the blue player's turn ends. We move to the red player's draw phase. So, of course, they get to draw a card at the beginning. And then, if both players agree to end the draw phase, you move to your standby phase. And then, if you want to end your standby phase and the blue player agrees to end that phase, then you move to main phase 1. Now, once again, you have the options of doing your normal summon, setting a spell or trap card, activating a spell card. So, at this point, the red player normal summons Mech Knight Avram, and then declares that they are going to end the main phase 1. If the blue player agrees, they can move to battle phase, and then declare attacks. So, in this situation, there is a defense position monster and an attack position monster. So, the defense position monster cannot declare an attack if it is in defense position, while attack position monsters, once again, can declare attacks. And just to reiterate what I said earlier, the Mech Knight Avram on the red player's side of the field, that attack position, can attack either monster they want. They don't have to attack anything specific, as long as they choose to. So say the Avram can attack the green gadget, the Avram can attack the other Avram. So the red player declares their attack on the other Avram. So in this situation, both monsters have 2000 attack, so this is called crashing your monster. If both monsters have the matching attack, then both monsters get destroyed. Both monsters go to the graveyard, and because there was no difference in the attack, neither player takes battle damage. Now the red player decides that they are going to end the battle phase, the blue player agrees. You go to main phase 2, and then if the red player wants to end the main phase too, and the blue player agrees, you go to end phase, and then if both players agree to end that, the turn ends. Now you're in the blue player's draw phase, they draw a card for their turn. Now they can go to their standby phase after that, and then both players agree to end the standby phase, you go to main phase 1. Now at this point, the blue player can activate their spell, they can flip their trap card, if they have another trap card in their hand, they can set that card. So the blue player is going to activate their spell card, Monster Reborn. It simply reads, target one monster in either player's graveyard and special summon it. So as we said in the first video, as long as the card effect is special summoning, if it just says to special summon the card and doesn't specify a position, you have the option of face-up attack position or face-up defense position. So the blue player is going to go in their graveyard and special summon their Mech Knight Avram. And now that Monster Reborn's effect has finished, it goes to the graveyard. Keep in mind, if you special summon the monster, you still have your normal summon. It's just completely optional if you want to normal summon, you're not obligated to normal summon. But instead, the blue player actually has the option of also changing the battle position of their card. So, once per turn, if you have a monster that wasn't normal summoned or special summoned that turn, you can change its position. So, say for example, on the red player's turn, they've had this giant soldier of stone on the field for 3 turns now. They can change the monster's position from defense position into attack position. And the same goes for the blue player, who just took their green gadget that was normal summoned last turn, and they turned it from attack position to defense position. Now, there's really nothing else that the blue player can do here because their 2000 attack Mech Knight Avram cannot beat over the 2000 defense of Giant Soldier Stone, so they're going to declare they're ending their main phase 1. If the red player agrees, they can move right to their end phase. Keep in mind, they have the option of going to their battle phase, it's just that they wouldn't have really anything to do in there, so they just choose to end their turn. Now we're going to move to the red player's turn again. They will draw for turn, and then if both players agree to end the draw phase and go to standby phase, then if both players agree to end the standby phase, we go to main phase 1. Once again, you can activate your spells, set your traps, do your normal summons. So the red player activates the spell card Raigeki. This card simply reads, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. So that's going to destroy the green gadget and the Mech Knight Avram, sending them both to the blue player's graveyard. And then because Raigeki's effect has finished, it goes to the graveyard as well. Now you still have your normal summon, so the red player will normal summon Hayabusa Knight. This is a monster that has the effect. This card can make a second attack during each battle phase. Then the red player chooses to change their Giant Soldier Stone from defense position to attack position, and then declare they are ending the main phase. So at this point, the blue player agrees, they enter battle phase, and now at this situation, the blue player has no monsters on the field, so the red player can actually declare an attack directly on their opponent. So what happens here is, whenever an attack is declared directly on the opponent, is referred to as attacking directly. What's going to happen is you're going to take the attack of the monster who's attacking directly and subtract it from the player who's getting attacked directly. You're going to subtract that from their life total. So in this situation, the blue player has 7,400 life points and is being attacked directly for 1,300, so they're going to lose 1,300 life points. that brings them to 6,100. Next up, you have the option of attacking again. So the red player will attack directly with Hayabusa Knight. This monster has 1,000 attack. So it's a direct attack. You're going to subtract 1,000 from the life points of the player who's being attacked directly. So the blue player is being attacked directly for 1,000, so their life points are going to go from 6,100 to 5,100. And now keep in mind, Hayabusa Knight has this effect that reads this card to make a second attack during each battle phase. So it can attack directly again for another 1,000. So you're going to subtract 1,000 from the 5,100 that the blue player has, and go to 4,100. Now, no more attacks can be made for the red player's turn, so they're going to say they want to end the battle phase. The blue player can agree, and you can move to main phase 2. Then if there's nothing else that you want to do in main phase 2, you can simply say you're going to end main phase 2. If the blue player agrees, then you're in the end phase, and both players agree to end the end phase, you end the turn. Now we're at the blue player's turn again. They're going to draw for their draw phase. And now, let's say you're in a situation where you just don't feel like you're coming back from it. You actually have the option to end the game at any time, and it's called scooping. It's where you decide that you're probably going to lose and you just want to go on to the next game. You kind of just look at your hand, you don't really see any options. You have the option of just saying, you got it, you win, I scoop, things like that. Just to let the other player know that you gave up, it's over. So we're going to end the duel with the blue player just saying that they're done. So that's basically all the phases there, how battling works, pretty much every situation of a battle phase. If the monsters have even attack, if an attack monster attacks a defense position who has even defense that matches the attacking monster's attack, what happens when two monsters with the same attack battle, pretty much every aspect has been covered. If an attack monster attacks a monster with a lower attack, and then of course keep in mind if a monster is attacked that attacks a monster as in defense, and the defense position monster has lower defense than the attacking monster's attack, the defense position monster gets destroyed. And if your monster is in defense position and gets destroyed, once again you don't actually take damage. So if a monster is in defense, it gets destroyed by battle. You don't subtract the defense from the attack and take that damage, you take no damage. So once again, that's going to wrap up how battle phase attacking works, how all 6 phases of each turn works. But if you have any questions regarding this video, about phases, about battling monsters, let me know in the comments below. Also, in the description, you can find a link to my Discord, so if you have any questions, you can simply join my Discord and ask questions there. But guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something new about Yu-Gi-Oh! Today. This is going to be Toasty TCG signing out.